Before we begin, since this is a BBC-owned property, I feel the need to point out that the news arm of the BBC has a continuing issue with transphobic leanings in its news coverage. You can find in a pinned comment below various videos from both myself and other YouTubers covering this issue. And while I understand that the Doctor Who creative team is not responsible for this, I will continue to point this out for as long as it remains a consistent issue. Thank you.
This video is sponsored by Atlas VPN. I've given my latest ranking for the Doctors. There's somebody else I gotta cover. Yes, it's been the end of an era, the end of Chibnall's era, the end of Whittaker's time as the Doctor, but we also got, possibly, we'll see what happens, a closeout for Sasha Dewan's Master. And even if it isn't, I think it's time that I do a fresh ranking of the Masters all the same. Pardon the outfit. I actually don't have cosplay of any of the Masters specifically. This is kind of just a generic villainy kind of thing. Roll with it, okay? So before I start this, there are a couple of things to go over. First is, this is only going to be covering Masters who appeared in the main show. I'm not going to say Big Finish has no input, but I will not be looking at Big Finish exclusive Masters because there are a couple of those. So that's the first thing to understand. The other thing we got to cover is, I got to talk about this video's sponsor. As scary as the Master can be, the internet can be even scarier. Trust me, I've been on here a while. Everything from security concerns, ads, malware, Atlas VPN can help you navigate all of that. And right now, Atlas is running the best VPN deal on the market. The Steel Black Friday deal will get you Atlas VPN Premium for just $1.70 a month for 3 years, plus 6 months extra and a 30-day money-back guarantee. And to get that deal, all you have to do is click the link below. Atlas VPN allows you to protect an unlimited number of devices on a single subscription. It'll help you block malicious links, keep your Google searches private, and, most importantly for somebody like me, allow you to unlock your favorite content from all over the world. It's hard enough trying to keep on top of what services carry what shows or movies you love, but there's nothing more frustrating than realizing they carry it just not where you are. So click the link down below, get.atlasvpn.com/geeks. It'll get you access to what you want and keep you safe from whatever rogue Time Lords may be out there. And so now it's time for us to take a look at those who have embodied the mantle of Master. Starting at the bottom, working our way up. Number 8. Eric Roberts. Now, I know he has done some Big Finish stuff. I have not heard it yet. I've even heard some good things about it, but until I hear that, all I have to go off of is the 90s Doctor Who TV movie. And he really doesn't work in that. And I feel bad saying that. I saw him speak at Gallifrey 1 earlier this year, and he seemed to genuinely enjoy Doctor Who related things. I'm pretty sure he did the best that he could, but honestly, I think a lot of it was the writing. It didn't seem to know what it wanted from the Master. It went back and forth from having him be almost robotic and almost Terminator-esque.
What happened to the gunshot wound I brought in?
To just going full flamboyant camp by the end of that.
I always dress for the occasion.
There was no real consistency to it, and he didn't come across as a proper threat in that. I do hope to listen to some of his Big Finish stuff and see if that bumps him up the list at a later time, but for right now, that's still the bottom spot. Number 7. Anthony Ainley. Classic Who fans are gonna be mad at me about this one. So, here's the thing. Basically what it comes down to is Anthony Ainley is camp. And that in and of itself is not a problem. I don't have an inherent problem with camp, and sometimes campy Doctor Who can really work for me. The issue that I tend to have with the Master being camp, though, and honestly camp villains in general, is that they're not threatening.
I have a greater concept. One that will encompass the whole human race.
And Anthony Ainley rarely is. Now, granted, there are still some classic appearances from him that I have yet to see, but as it currently stands, he was the closest to intimidating right when he first started. Right when we went from Keeper of Traken into Logopolis, into Castrovalva, that was about the strongest and the closest to scary he ever came across. But after that, he comes across as more of a pantomime villain. He practically twirled his mustache and went, whoa! And it's not that it didn't work, but it's not to my taste because I find nothing intimidating about that. I also don't think he had especially good chemistry with a lot of the doctors that he ended up performing with. He wasn't awful working off of them, but I'll bring it up at later points. Sometimes the chemistry that the Master has with the doctors that they're performing with does a lot to boost things, and he didn't really have that going for me. Number 6, John Sim. So now that I've already ticked off the classic Who fans, now I can tick off the modern era fans. Because, yeah, John Sim, here's the thing. Even though I don't think he's actually gone up in the ranking, I didn't go back and check my the last time I did this, because I don't try and stay consistent. It's just this is my feelings right now, so I don't go back and compare. But I do actually think better of him now, but I'm not sure he actually moved in placement because this gets dragged down by his first appearance. I really don't care for him in the 3 episodes he appears in Series 3 originally. His first debut in Utopia, Sound of Drums, Last of the Time Lords. There's a manic kind of energy there that I can appreciate, but he's just a little bit too cartoonish. It's not quite to Anthony Ainley's level of camp, but just the extent to which it's trying to make him seem like a villain who's having fun, but it's taken to such an extreme that there's just the giddiness isn't the same as like a villain being really excited at their evil plan. He's bouncing off the walls in a way that just isn't engaging for me. Now, I actually think he got better with every appearance he made. That seems to be a slightly controversial opinion, but basically when he showed up in The End of Time, parts 1 and 2, he worked much better for me. That similar energy was there, but this time it was tempered by the fact that he was actively falling apart. He was kind of breaking down. And so it felt less like a, well, let's just make him wacky kind of thing, and it felt more determined and informed by what was happening to him as a character. And so I liked that better. And then I liked him even more when he showed up again at the end of Series 10 for the Dr. Falls. That, I think, was his strongest performance, as he just had this sense of smugness. He just thinks he has everything figured out, and he embodies that really well. So even though he got better with every appearance, it did still start out rough for me. So that's why he is where he is. Number 5, the Crispy Master. This is actually a combination. I think last time I did this, I ranked the 2 primary performers who played this incarnation of the Master, Peter Pratt and Jeffrey Beavers, separately. I'm going to bring them together here because they are effectively playing the same incarnation. But the ranking of this where it is largely down to Jeffrey Beavers, who I think does great work getting that sense of desperation and bitterness. Because the idea of this incarnation of the Master is he is on what is supposed to be and what he believes to be his last incarnation. That's why he's walking around in this horrible burnt up state. He has no regenerations left. So he's going to hang on and clutch to whatever he can, even as he is this burnt out, decrepit, falling apart creature. He won't let himself just die, even though if he'd had any regenerations, he would have used one right now. And that sense of really clinging on, just hanging on by the fingernails, is very much in the better instances of this character. And Jeffrey Beavers, who I've not only seen in some of the performances like, say, Keeper of Traken, but I've heard in some of the Big Finish, like with Master. And he brings a great sense of just being too stubborn, too bitterly, viciously stubborn to just die. And it works pretty dang well. Number 4, Sasha Dewan. This one's kind of funny to me because in a lot of ways it seems, at least to my taste, like a refinement of John Sim. Because Dewan brings a fairly similar manic energy to the proceedings, but he never gave me the sense of like just bouncing off the walls. It just felt more like unbridled joy at the misery he was bringing on to people. He had a plan and he was locking himself down as best as he could, whereas Sim seemed to just be happy to let himself go to a degree that didn't quite work for me, at least in his first appearance. Here, Dewan feels like he's trying to keep on top of it, but he's giddy at the chance to mess with the Doctor. And there's also a lot of smaller, subtler things. There's actually a couple, the most blatant being in the most recent episode, Power of the Doctor, but there are some clear moments of deep self-loathing.
Don't let me go back to being me.
That really makes it feel like this isn't just someone who is villainous for villainous sake. There is thought to go into why is he like this right now? And the little bits that we get hints of, which maybe will get explored eventually in Big Finish, or if he shows up again in the show. We don't really know exactly what will happen there yet. But I do hope that can get explored more, because even though we don't know for certain that Dewan comes after Missy, that would go a way of explaining it. If this is an incarnation that kind of can't stop himself, whatever growth Missy had to be able to temper and redirect her machinations, Dewan doesn't have. And so he falls back into those patterns, but that little bit of self-loathing actually makes him make sense, possibly as a successor to Missy in that way. So he brings that high energy that Sim had, but it just feels better focused, and it feels a little bit tempered in just the right way that I needed, and that Sim would do later, but Dewan did pretty much off the bat. Number 3, the War Master. Oh, Big Finish is a major factor here. So, I've always liked the War Master. I have always liked Derek Jacobi. That first turn to camera in Utopia, he is so intimidating, and he is immediately the master. Kind of what's awesome, though, if you listen to the Big Finish War Master stuff, is just getting a sense of how deeply manipulative he is. Because when we see him in Utopia, he is passing as Professor Yan, who's this wonderful, affable, nice, sweet guy. And that's not who the Master is. But much like how John Smith was an aspect of the Doctor, and those components were still in there even after David Tennant gained control of his body again in that 2-parter back in Series 3.
Where is he? John Smith?
He's in here somewhere.
Professor Yana is a component of the War Master, and he can call on that, and he can pass as somebody who cares. He can trick people into thinking he has a heart. He can trick people into thinking he doesn't mean them harm, but he does. He always does. But he is so good at manipulating his way into getting exactly what it is he wants. And what he wants is never, ever anything good. He is tense, scary, intimidating. And again, most of this, it's like a fraction of an episode in Series 3, and then it's audio, but dang, does it ever work? Before I do the top 2, I should stress, these top 3 are really neck and neck. There is a decent chance that when I do this next, that especially if I've listened to more Big Finish stuff, Derek Jacobi might be at the top. Like, you need to realize how close these top 3 are. So, that having been said, number 2, Roger Delgado, the original master. And he did suffer, unfortunately, from overuse after first being introduced. And he did tragically pass away far too early. But I'll tell you what, the chemistry, the rapport of him and John Pertwee, it makes so many episodes. It made me love the original Sea Devils, which upon rewatch that I did not too long ago isn't as good as I remembered it. But the stuff between the two of them is excellent. And he really has the presence that sells you on the idea that he can hypnotize somebody just by looking at them. When Roger Delgado did it, the way he would just look at someone, that commanding presence, yeah, I could buy he could hypnotize people just by looking at them. He absolutely sold that, and he was suave, yet also laid back whenever he thought he was winning. But then he could get angry and snarling almost when he realized he wasn't winning. He was the perfect match for the Doctor, the third Doctor in specific. And there's a reason that the character has been brought back continuously since. He was made worth bringing back because of this performance. He was my number 1 last time. I have shifted around a bit, which means that when it comes to number 1, it's Missy. Michelle Gomez brings so much to this part. She brings that chaotic energy, and she's fun. I love how fun she is, but also in her best moments, and this holds true for her appearances in Big Finish as well. She is never far away from reminding you she may be fun, she may be quippy, she may be funny, she's dangerous.
No, I've not turned good.
And she is never more than a few minutes away from reminding you just how dangerous she is. Whereas the War Master puts people at ease by showing a false face, Missy can lull the audience, if not, and sometimes even the other characters, into a false sense of security by her presence. She's fun. She seems to be enjoying herself, and it becomes easy to forget that her enjoying herself probably means somebody's gonna die soon. She has phenomenal chemistry with Peter Capaldi. The two of them, it is no easy thing to sell the Master, any incarnation, wanting to get better. Not just being better, but wanting to. She sells that, and she sells that because of the chemistry that she has with Capaldi. Previous Masters have sold that the history was there, that there was a past of friendship. Roger Delgado absolutely sold that sense. Missy sells the idea that there's still something there. Maybe even she wants it again enough to try. But even in trying to be quote unquote good, she's still gonna be Missy. And she's still gonna be dangerous. She's still gonna be chaotic. And she's still gonna be my favorite Master. At least this time. This ranking has changed before. It may change again. Like I said, those top 3 especially are really close. Really, really close. Like right up until the last minute, I did shuffle these around. And you ask me another day even, I might do it a different order. But this is what I'm doing right now. That is the ranking. My thanks again to Atlas VPN. Link down in the description for that deal that I talked about earlier. But I also want to hear your thoughts on this. How would you rank the Masters? What are your thoughts on the Big Finish exclusive Masters, if you're familiar with those? What are some stories from either Big Finish or Classic Who, because I still haven't seen all of Classic, that you think I could see that would help me maybe better appreciate some of the Masters who are lower ranked on here? Whatever your thoughts are on any of this, drop something down in the comments and let's talk about it. Patreon is how I pay the bills, in addition to the generous sponsors that I very occasionally am able to set something up with. But even if you can't support me that way, like, share, subscribe, they help me out as well. There's links down in the description, further down in the description, that can also show you the other things that I do, other platforms you can see me on, other ways you can support me, but don't worry too much about that. What I really want you to remember is that you are beautiful, you are valid, and you are loved. You are the council. I'm just running the meetings. And until next time, this council is adjourned. End credits. That means I need to shout out my top Patreon supporters: Robin Moore, Zupin Lutfula, Tarak, the thing that goes doink in the anime, Oliver B., Linda Walters, Emu Delkey, Leotha Boyd, Toy Loli, Becky Sparks, Renabi Likes the Poodle, Zach, Tracy Scrabbit, Angry Casperl, Adam RDL Taylor, Shay Lagourlay, Brendan LaRose, and TT. Thank you so much for your support. You can get your name in the credits too by checking out the rewards on the Patreon. You only tried to eat my earring once this time. That's much better.